Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the Equity Town Hall, Vendor Diversity and Inclusion Division. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce this afternoon's panelist and moderator. Edward Oliveri is Director of Contract Compliance for Cook County Government. Vincent Williams is Executive Director of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council. Rachel Canning, R.L. Canning, business owner. Dolly Carradine, Ashflower Construction, business owner. Denise Barreto, Cook County Director of Equity and Inclusion, will serve as the moderator. Since taking office in 2010, it's been a priority of my administration to increase opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, MBEs and WBEs, to do business with Cook County. This priority is a reflection of our commitment to advancing racial equity. For too long, many local governments, including Cook County, tolerated discriminatory practices that adversely impacted the growth and full participation of minority and women-owned businesses in the government marketplace. Having inherited an antiquated system with a poor track record, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. Our Office of Contract Compliance administers our MBE-WBE program in close collaboration with our Office of Procurement. Both teams work to ensure that we meet our goals. It's crucial that we also make this data transparent and publicly available. That's why we publish our annual business diversity reports to communicate to the public who we're doing business with and our progress in meeting our goals. Just last week, we filed our business diversity report for fiscal year 2019. Eddie will dive deeper into the numbers and specifics of this report, but I want to highlight a few statistics that speak to our tremendous progress. In fiscal year 2019, we spent over $74 million on MBE and WBE contracts. This includes over $25 million to African American contractors, $18 million to Latinx contractors, $15 million to Asian contractors, and $14 million to women contractors. Since 2016, our payment to firms owned by African American women has increased by 75%. Payment to firms owned by Asian women has increased by 150%. And payment to Latinx-owned firms in professional services has increased by 95%. A project that speaks to our success in vendor diversity and inclusion is the recently completed Harrison Square Hyatt property, in which the historic old Cook County Hospital was renovated into a hotel, retail space, and a food hall. We used an equity lens when we designed this transformation. We exceeded all of our goals in hiring minority and women-owned firms. I'm going to say that again. We exceeded all of our goals in hiring women and minority-owned firms. We also exceeded our goal in hiring employees from the community. What's more, 75% of the vendors in the food hall are minority and women-owned businesses. Hiring locally and hiring equitably were non-negotiable elements of this project, and I'm grateful that we were able to exceed our goals. This provides a proof of concept. When you center equity from the beginning, you achieve equitable results. And we all have a responsibility to do this in the public and the private sectors. These numbers are the result of a major commitment to equity and inclusion, coupled with close collaboration with the business community. The bottom line is this. For those who do want to work with Cook County, I'm proud to say we have clearly one of the best programs in Illinois. Now I'll turn it over to Denise and the other panelists. I look forward to your questions and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon. My name is Denise Barreto, and I'm the inaugural Director of Equity and Inclusion for Cook County Government. I am excited to be here for a number of reasons. One, I am the hostess of many of our virtual town halls, but today I actually share the double joy of talking about something I care a lot about, which is minority-owned and women-owned businesses. So thank you, President Preckwinkle. I too am proud of our work here. I want to just give you a quick overview of who our panelists are today, as well as a quick run of show. I'm going to introduce our contract compliance manager, Edward Oliveri, our Director of Contract Compliance, Cook County Government. We also have Vincent Williams, who is the Executive Director of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council. Rachel Canning as RL Canning, and Dolly Carradine of Ashlar Construction. I'm going to turn it over to Eddie first to give us a little bit of a mini update to verify and back up those numbers that the president shared with you at the top of our broadcast. Eddie?
Thank you so much, Denise. It's always an honor to be able to sit with such distinguished business owners and our team here at Cook County to talk about the good work that we do on our Minority and Women Business Program. So the program started in 1988, but has really taken off since President Preckwinkle has taken over in 2010. Our numbers continue to grow year over year. In 2019, those are our best year yet. Over $131 million in payments to minority and women business owners, both on the government side and in the hospital side in the aggregate, with over 43 million of that to African-American owned firms. Since 2016, over $463 million have been spent with minority and women businesses. And going back to 2014, $680 million to minority and women businesses. The purpose of these numbers is we want to give hope to those businesses that are interested in doing work with Cook County. We hope that businesses will see us as a good business partner and leverage the opportunities that we have at the county to continue to grow. Our office, the Office of Contract Compliance, certifies minority and women-owned businesses. We do compliance work, setting goals on contracts, making sure that those goals are met. We do outreach to communicate to the business community the different contracting opportunities that we have here. And then more than anything, transparency. Our website shows business diversity reports going back to 2013 on our website. We want the people to know exactly what it is that we're doing here and to know that there's a place for them here in Cook County. We are open for business. We're doing great work, and there's a lot of opportunity to grow. We're having more contracting opportunities coming down the pike all the time, and we hope that our vendors will come and take advantage of those opportunities.
Thank you, Eddie. Mm-hmm. Now I'll have each of the other panelists introduce themselves, starting with Rachel Canning.
Got to unmute myself. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to have been asked to be able to speak to everybody and introduce my organization, RL Canning. I can't believe it, but I've been in business now for over 20 years, and we had our certification with Cook County, and I can't speak enough about the overall program and what it has done for our organization to essentially open up doors when we had initially started. My organization focuses primarily on providing IT managed services. And I'm happy to say that back when we first started our organization, we are strategic partners and working with Chicago Public Schools and the state of Illinois, as well as Cook County. And today we are a prime vendor at Chicago Public Schools. So that is such a whole incredible story all on its own. But I'm extremely appreciative of being here today, and thank you so much for this opportunity to showcase our organization.
Thank you, Rachel. You're going to have to tell us about being a prime in a little bit, okay? The next person to introduce themselves is the new CEO and Executive Director of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, Vincent Williams. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Denise, and thank you so much, President Preckwinkle, for allowing the council to be a part of this conversation here at the Equity Town Hall. So as Denise mentioned, my name is Vince Williams. I'm the 5th president and CEO of the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council. We are the third-party certifying agency here in Chicago that focuses on certifying, advocating, connecting, and developing minority-owned businesses. And so for these organizations that are looking to get government contracts as well as work with corporations, we certify and then connect them. And then the other programming that we provide is all about developing and advocating, if you will, for minority businesses here throughout the state.
Thank you, Vincent.
Sure thing.
And Dolly Carradine.
You're on mute, Dolly.
There we are. I do apologize.
Yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Dolly Carradine, president of Ashlar Construction. Ashlar Construction has been in business for approximately 35 years, and we have had the pleasure of being certified with the county for since 2014. We started this business with, excuse me, I do apologize. We started this business here without being certified, obviously, and we've had the pleasure of being certified and getting work here in the county and within the city for the last 20 years as a certified contractor. We work on projects, as Rachel said, for CPS, and we work on projects with the county as well. Throughout the city of Chicago, we've actually had the pleasure of being a prime joint venture on a couple of projects within the county over the last couple of years. And without the president's assistance and inclusion here, these things would not be taking place right now. So I applaud the president for continuously revamping the program and allowing contractors as myself to become prime contractors within the county. And we really do appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Dolly. So I'm going to have our first question go to our contract compliance. Thank you, Eddie, for the mini report out that you gave us. Very insightful. And of course, hearing those numbers and hearing the segmentation of those numbers, to really echo what the president said in her remarks. I would love the first question to be to you, which is, what's your biggest challenge running contract compliance for the county?
Thanks for the question, Denise. There's always challenges in government. I would say the biggest challenge is helping our businesses to adapt to the consistently changing business environment. Obviously, in the last 10 years, we see with social media shifting to online sales. All of those things impact the business's ability to maintain current, to be competitive in the marketplace. And so helping to guide those businesses is always a challenge, particularly for minority and women-owned businesses, which tend to be smaller, tend to have the same problems of accessing capital, building out networks, accessing mentorship. Those are things that challenge any business, and particularly so for minority and women-owned businesses. That's why it's so important to have organizations like the CMSDC and others that provide a tremendous amount of support to small minority and women-owned businesses to help them get off the ground, help them build the infrastructure necessary to be successful, and and establish those networks that are critical to having success, long term, and ultimately creating that generational wealth, and not just a job for now, but long-term growth that will be sustainable for those businesses, the families of the owners, the employees, and the communities in which they exist. That investment that the county makes in those businesses trickles down and has a ripple effect into our communities. And that, speaking to those numbers earlier on, since President Preckwinkle has come into office, tickling $1 billion of investment in MBE and WBE firms is a tremendous accomplishment, and we're excited to see the impact of that on those communities.
Excellent. Thank you, Eddie. So this question is open to all of our panelists, and it's pretty, we're in a unique time. I don't know how many times you hear people say how unprecedented it is or how challenging it is. I'm curious to hear from all of you, what are some of the unique challenges that are facing minority and women-owned businesses in our pandemic climate that we're in? And anybody can take that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll start it off. And I'm sure some of the other panelists will end up agreeing with this. We're in such interesting times with the COVID-19, everything that's really been happening as far as business disruption. The council prides itself on, we were born after the civil unrest of the 1968 Democratic National Convention. And so some white majority business owners, if you will, got together and said, hey, we need to change really how we're doing business. And that's how the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council got started. So it's so interesting that now, as the fifth president with me coming in, we've experienced, if you will, history repeating itself. With the George Floyd killings, the Breonna Taylor verdict right now, and then what civil unrest we experienced here in Chicago, to have that resurface itself, if you will, but still to identify those same inequities, if you will, that exist between MBEs and WBEs and veteran business owners, not being able to still capture, if you will, that those major spends. And so that's where we're hoping to really address these patterns, if you will, of business challenges that are still existing, but controlling and changing that narrative by continuing to connect them, continually develop them, but then also create these types of partnerships like what we're having here with the county, having virtual opportunities like this, and then being able to talk with the actual boots to the ground business owners like Rachel and Zali that are on here to share really what we're all experiencing and our why for keep doing it.
Yes.
I'd also add to that too, Vincent. I think that's a great point, is that COVID-19 has, without a shadow of a doubt, affected everyone. No one is not affected by this. Small business, large business. And I'd like to say that it also can bring out the best in us and, the worst in us, right? So our experience, and because our organization focuses on technology and our relationship with the Chicago Public Schools, you can imagine when all this transition was taking place, how quickly we had to reinvent how employees worked and were working remotely, and making sure that we were aligned with the CIO at the Chicago Public Schools, who is amazing, and making sure that we got all these kids' devices in their hands, transitioned employees, 42,000 employees having to work from home, and obviously in some of these communities within the Chicago public school systems, these kids are underserved and don't necessarily have access to devices. And it was an incredible feat that everyone was hands on deck to make sure that we did what we could possibly do to have a hotline for the parents to be able to call. So I think that COVID and, digital transformation, customer experience, and user experience is in the forefront of all of this. We all need to completely be on board to embrace those changes, because this is a whole new world and it's not going to change. The way we're all doing business and is all going to change. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to how it was. So I think that in the end, everyone on this panel can agree that there's no shortcut to success. And, you have to work really hard, and you have to be creative, and you have to collaborate. And it's not about individuals, it's about a team of individuals. And I would say to all organizations out there, MBE, WBE firms, that, you need to surround yourself with like-minded people that want to focus on winning. And so I would just say that has been sort of our experience and what we did at Chicago Public Schools and my team. It's incredible. I cannot say I'm so proud of how they were able to really roll up their sleeves and make sure that the kids were continuing with their education.
Excellent.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Rachel's saying here, the challenges and the things we have to do to become creative again in the business world are really taking its toll on us as small business owners. There are certain hurdles that you think you've jumped over, and now they're back at your doorstep, such as funding. Funding has become another difficult situation, and for a minority business, it's always a difficult situation. And seeing that COVID has turned everybody upside down, you call your banker, the banking industry is not the same as it was 6 months ago. Everyone's afraid. So funding is not available. Even when you have money that is out there that you're supposed to collect from general contractors and title companies, nobody's at work. So what process took 2 or 3 weeks is now taking you 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And so you still have to feed families and pay payrolls, and there's some difficult times ahead of us, and we just have to become creative and see how we work these situations out.
Thank you. So my next question is specifically for the business owners too. It was, how are you coping? Actually, you've already answered that. So why don't we pivot to the next question? I want to pivot to Vincent Williams because you are 4 months in as the 5th leader of the CMSDC, and I would love to hear what kind of new paths you're forging for the organization in support of minority businesses in Chicago?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much again. We're all in interesting times right now. I think this pandemic has really caused many businesses, or forced them, if you will, to pivot. And so what we've done here at the council is have had to incorporate technology really, really a lot to make sure that we're able to still provide that same content and value add for our MBEs, but as well as for our corporate members that are looking to connect with these MBEs. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, every year we have our Chicago Business Opportunity Fair. Typically takes place in the late spring, early summer, and every year it's really a well-attended event where we are able to make these organic connections. Well, because of the pandemic, we were all forced to, of course, pivot to this online virtual environment similar to what we're experiencing today. And that has been challenging, especially for a lot of MBEs that may not have had just the spend dollars, if you will, to pivot as easily to take advantage of this type of new connecting. Also, it's just not the same. You know, here in Chicago, here in the Midwest, we're about these organic meetings, right? We like to be face to face and to get your energy and understand who you are and hear your business plan and understand your capacity. And you just don't get that same experience or feeling, you know, virtually. And so that's one of the things that that I'm looking under my leadership and the team that I have here is to really fold that into how we're going to look to do things going forward. I think for any business to not include technology and really what its capabilities are into what they're doing or their strategic planning, well, you might as well put that gone fishing sign on the door right now because you'll be left behind. Right now, it's really, really paramount that organizations too are losing how they source materials, how they source business diversity. And so the fact now, and I've said this on numerous occasions on how we can control the narrative of how we're spending, who we're interacting with, CEOs, corporations, they're able to control that. And why not do that when you know that the business case for diversity is golden, right? It's definitely going to contribute positively to your bottom line. And since you have the opportunity to connect with these minority and women business owners, and especially we have about 1,000 MBEs here in Chicago that we can connect you with, and they represent all industries. Similar to Rachel, IT, similar to Zali, what you have in the construction, we have CPAs, we have marketing firms. To take advantage of that and incorporate that into how you're spending and the fact that it's local and you can develop, that's where we're looking to take the council in the years to come. And I think we're really going to see a great opportunity for scalability, for growth, for collaboration for years to go down.
Excellent. We do have an audience question that I'd like to quick toss in. It's Carl Bibbs, and he says the timelines for certification are too long. And I'm laughing because he's saying 90 days misses the mark. I have to laugh because I've been certified in 2 different places. In 90 days, if you're getting certification in 90 days, it's pretty quick, bro. So I just want to say, I don't know where you're getting 90 days, but he's saying that certification timelines are long. Eddie or Vince, would you like to address that question?
Well, I can speak on the county's process, and you know, thanks for that question. So the certification process is long. And the reason for that is that it is a tremendously rigorous process, and we have to have that in order to maintain the integrity of the program. The last thing in the world we want is fraud in our programs. And so we go through those documents with a fine-tooth comb. What I can say is that our customer service at Cook County is second to none. That we are very close. We work very closely with our vendors in the certification process. We're going to be building out our virtual certification workshop. So historically, we've offered an in-person one. We're going to be doing it virtually. And then that workshop is going to be recorded. It's going to live on our website so that firms have access to that information on demand. And they know how to prepare their application on the front end as completely and comprehensively as possible so that when the application is submitted, there's a minimal amount of back and forth. The back and forth is really where the process drags itself out. And so if we can support business owners to submit complete applications on the front end, we're going to bring that time frame down. But thank you for the question. I think it's very, very, the point is well taken, and we're always looking at improving our process.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on that too, Eddie. So, I have understood since I've come into the position that the process was a little disjointed as well. And what you've uncovered was, again, that if all items are not received to ensure certification and to mitigate the fraud that is definitely there, then that process can be streamlined a lot more. What we've done now is we've really taken a lot of efforts to making the process as much as possible online, that you can upload documents and make sure that information is there. And then aside from our site visit, which we had to switch to virtual site visits, due to the pandemic, that was also one of the things, is arranging the time. What we as a certifying organization have realized is that, again, you are operating and running your business. And so we want to help and assist in any way possible for there. And so the team here is really pulling together to make sure that we're creating these checklist items and making sure that to minimize the amount of time that you have to spend with getting those documents in. But we've also incorporated a fast track. So if you are looking to get or put a bid in on a contract much sooner, there are ways that you can work with and receive a type of white glove treatment, if you will. There's a little bit of an extra cost for that, but this is a personal hand-holding, if you will, of the application process to streamline that and get that in. As you know, I think, and maybe Eddie, you can attest to this, one of the biggest challenges that we receive when certifying is that most certifying organizations or most MBEs don't want to share with us either their tax returns or some important information that we really need to confirm that this organization is 51% minority owned. Well, if that is the case, then yeah, it is going to take a little bit longer for us to uncover. Sharing with you additional information that you can provide to us to confirm that. Again, when you think of these organizations that are about to spend probably a nice amount of sourcing dollars with you, and they want to make sure that they are, doing business with a minority certified business, not just a minority owned business, then those are the steps that you're going to have to take with it. So as we shorten this, I think you'll see, more and more shortened times that will come in play, but it really is necessary in order to make sure that, you have truly a minority business that you're working with, or a women business, or a veteran business.
Thank you both. I appreciate that. And like I said, I got certified about 6 years ago, and 90 days would have been awesome. So it's good to hear that there are lots of opportunities and for condensing that, and that the folks that are leading this are aware of the complexity that is there. I want to direct a question, and I'll start with the president if possible, but I want to hear from everyone. Want to just hear your perspective on why, certification and having an equity lens on gender diversity, why is that important? I know the president for sure has an opinion about this, but I want to hear from everyone as well. President Preckwinkle? Okay. You're muted.
There we go. Thank you. This is a country in which there's tremendous inequity. And of course, there's inequity in our state and our county as well. And we in government have particular obligation to try to address that inequity. And one of the ways we can do that is provide opportunities for MBEs and WBEs. So we are committed partly because it's our values, but it's also good government. I mean, inclusion is good government. And I'm grateful for the work that Eddie and Rafi do in contract compliance and procurement, respectively, to try to provide opportunities and access to women and minority-owned firms.
Thank you. Anyone
Yes,
else?
yes, I would say that the work that Eddie and the president is doing is so important for business like mine. As I said, I've been in business for 35 years, and without the programs, there's no way that Ashmore Construction would be in joint venture projects within the county right now. We do a fine project, fine work just as anyone else, the majority of companies. But until we get those opportunities to show up and do the work, there's no way that anyone would know that. But there's no way I would have joint ventures right now within the county working on hospitals if the county did not put these parameters in place here. And we really appreciate it. And we need them. Even in business 35 years, we still need these programs. And the great work that the county and the president is doing is definitely needed. And we have to keep it in place.
I would agree. And again, you know, President Preckwinkle, I mean, thank you so much for this opportunity and for these programs. We've been in business for 20 years. And when I first started my organization, one of my very first contracts was with the Cook County Health and Hospital Systems. And, you know, when you're in business for just under a year, it's very difficult to have people believe in you and give you the opportunity to open up that door. And through our strategic partnership there, we started off at a very small level. And I would say that to a lot of the MBE, WBEs, you got to be able to manage your growth. And that comes with finances, obviously, because when you're first starting, believe me, my employees ate first before I did. But when we had started with Cook County Health and Hospital Systems, we literally started as a strategic partner and had 2 consultants on that engagement. And over a period of time and building credibility as an organization, and as an organization that had the ability to provide incredible talent, whether it was in the clinical application support space or the service desk, desktop support, we grew tremendously in owning a big portion of that contract. And it truly is because of this certification that gave us that opportunity when we first started. And now, I was mentioning this earlier in our call, I just think that, again, I have to emphasize that, you know, success, there's no shortcuts to success. You have to work really, really hard. And I always, when I'm speaking in some of these town halls, I always want to emphasize that, yes, there's situations that are unequitable, whether it's women not being compensated at the same level as our male counterparts, or whether it's the fact that we are people of color that are not necessarily have the same opportunities. With that being said, we still have to work really hard and produce quality service. And there's access to information and advancing our own learning and differentiating ourselves because of the work and the efforts that we're putting forward. And I'm proud that as my organization continues to grow, as we've expanded and our capabilities, that our organization is thought of as a high quality organization. And it's a bonus that they are also an MBE certified organization. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to add on to that too. You know, the fact that, you know, as President Preckwinkle mentioned, you know, inequities are evident. They are large, and it really, really showcases in the business community. And so what the council is really seeking to do is to connect and really make these matchmaking opportunities between the corporations and the MBEs and the WBEs, if you will. And so the importance of this certification and for business diversity is so great, right? You think that today we have, you know, all of these organizations now that are looking to uncover different ways of working with vendors and businesses that they can mold and they can work with. And that advantage they have by working with MBEs and WBEs, because they're a little bit more nimble, if you will, than some of the larger ones that are out there. And I think some of the business owners can attest to that. that has been one of the biggest advantages for these major organizations with working with them and uncovering that they are certified businesses there. And that's really what we're looking to do today as we all pivot towards this way of continuing to connect organizations virtually, matchmaking them virtually, letting them know that these businesses do exist in all industries, so that they can take advantage of that.
I couldn't agree more. I look at equity through my attorney hat to the concept of duty. And at the county, what underpins our MBE and WBE program is the county's past participation in discrimination. And so we owe a duty to focus on equity, not only just in our procurement, but also in our hiring, in where we make our investments and where we build our facilities and how we treat people. All of those things, equity is absolutely critical. And what I'm seeing at the county is there are opportunities for folks who look like me that may not exist in other institutions. And frankly, as a nation, I think that we have a duty to equity, because without equity, our nation will remain disjointed, disconnected. And so engaging people is good government, it's good business, and it's good citizenship as well.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm going to grab one of the questions from our audience. Jay Beck says that our panelists have touched on partnering with other MBE firms. How can MBE companies connect with local investors through, he said specifically CMSDC, but he also then adds local and international investors. So if there's other sources, that would be great. Is that something?
Yeah, I could add a little bit in on that. So, the Chicago MSDC is a part of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And it just so happens that we have our national conference going on right now. And so what that means is that I'm connected to about 22 other affiliate organizations throughout the nation. But in addition to that, here in Chicago, I have a minority business development agency that operates an export center. My center here in Chicago actually does specifically with the continent of Africa. And over the past few months, we switched to a virtual platform where we're able to showcase the diaspora of doing business in Africa. Freight forwarding type opportunities, so that you can do business in that particular continent. Some of my other affiliate networks, for example, on the West Coast, deal specifically with China, and then in the southern states, they deal with Latin America. So by being a member or working with the Chicago Council, we're able to make these strategic and intentional connections for you with either neighboring states, or if you do business outside, of the Cook County and the Chicagoland area, we can connect you through subscription services with those councils so that you have an in, if you will, directly with working with those types of businesses in other areas.
Thank you, Vincent. So that's a plug to join CMSDC so you have access. All right, Jay, I hope you got that. Another, well, it's a comment, and I think we should read it. It's from Suzanne Guerrera Cabron. She says that she recently obtained her BEP, which BEP is the business enterprise of the state of Illinois, just in case you didn't know that. She feels like she must certify through other places to get more access. And she said the certification process took less than 30 days. I had my documents in order and any questions I had. So I think that's worth reading, because depending on what your experience might be. Thank you, Suzanne, for sharing that. Does anybody have any? She did have a mini question ensconced in there about, does she need more certifications? Eddie, the only reason I kind of want to call you out on that is because I know we're working on some reciprocal things, and I know that CMSDC has reciprocity as well.
Yeah. So what I would recommend to Suzanne is come and certify with us at Cook County. Cook County certification gets you reciprocity with the city of Chicago, which means that certification gives you the county, Cook County Health, the county sister agencies like the Housing Authority of Cook County. And then it also gives you the city of Chicago and all the city sister agencies like CPS, Public Building Commission, et cetera. And right now, BEP has a fast track program that they're talking about, whereby if you're city or county certified, you can get the BEP certification in about a week. I'm really excited to hear that it only took you 30 days to get your certification. That's really, really fantastic. That tells me that you had your documents in order and you were ready to go, which is great. Come to us. Come certify with us. Leverage those certifications, in the government side. And then CMSDC is a tremendous organization, and their certification is widely respected in the private sector. I encourage businesses. I want you to grow with Cook County, but I want our MBE and WBs to make money everywhere. And so any certification that can help you get more contracts, build out your business, build your capacity is going to be worthwhile.
Excellent.
And I agree with that. Yeah. And I think that, as we move forward, we're going to look to provide these types of reciprocity agreements between the city and the state here through the Chicago MSDC, because again, collectively, it's how we're going to make sure that each of these businesses are receiving these contracts. They're being measured, and we can share that these actual awards, if you will, are being seen within our communities, the Black and the Latin communities.
Excellent. So we have another, I'm going to take another question from the audience, and it comes from Jacob, or actually, sorry, at Edie Moore, I believe. One challenge many of my clients face is verifying 100% of the time in the business. That's right, because when I started my business, it was a side thing to my whole big job. So they're asking, many owners have outside employment at first. Can this restriction be loosened?
I'm gonna let you put your attorney hat on that one.
So every agency that certifies has slightly different requirements. At the county, we certify startups. And so if a business owner has full-time employment and this is their sort of side hustle, that's totally fine. We're absolutely okay with that. What we want to make sure is that you as the owner have the capacity to do the work, that you have experience in the field, that you have a business plan, right? And a marketing plan and what you're actually going to do so that we can ensure, not only your ownership and control, but also your capacity to do the work. That's really the focus of our certification. Other agencies have slightly different foci, but that's where we focus on. And so by all means, if you're a startup, if this is your side hustle, come and certify with us. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that it's really one of the reasons that, as a third-party certifier, what we're looking to do is make sure, again, that you are a majority owner, if you are, and what you're doing there. So by looking and uncovering that the time that you're spending in operating this business is 51%, or even if it's greater than that, then that's how we're able to confirm that you are definitely, the minority owner of that business, which then would end up counting with working for receiving those government and corporate contracts.
Excellent. Let's see. Let's one other see. We have a quick question probably that Eddie can knock out. When can we expect the county to have virtual certification workshops?
Very soon. Within the next month, we're going to have that workshop. And we're really excited. We want a very large turnout because we want lots and lots of questions, because hopefully that's the one that we're going to record and put online. But in the next few weeks, so stay tuned.
Excellent. So I have another question directed at the president, but also other folks. President Preckwinkle, you referenced Harrison Square, and that was the example in your remarks about how we centered equity on that project. Just would love to hear why you felt that was important specifically in that case.
Whoops. There we go. We've had two really big construction projects in the last half a dozen years. One is the outpatient facility at Stroger, and the other, of course, is Harrison Square, the renovation of the old Cook County Hospital. And in both instances, we set a very high bar for MBE-WB participation and for community participation. And we thought that was right and just. A lot more work than perhaps a lesser commitment to equity would have involved, but we thought it was really important. These are public facilities. These are public dollars that we're using to support the ambulatory care center, and it's public land on which Harrison Square is located, although there isn't public money in it. So it was our conviction that we should, as we try to do in our programs and services and operations, we should try in these capital projects to have an equity focus as well.
Thank you. I've got another, well, first of all, I want to make sure we get the links of all of the companies, because someone is asking for each speaker's website as well as certification links. So I'm saying that out loud because I've got some tech folks in the background. I want to make sure we get those in there. Thank you, President Preckwinkle. Let's see. The next, first of all, thank you to the audience. I can't even get back to the questions I wrote because they stink anyway. I'm loving to go into your questions. The next one says, will the county be certifying the new cannabis licensees that are coming online soon?
Eddie, how to answer that? We're only responsible for unincorporated Cook, so most of the licenses are in the city or in suburban municipalities. So, Eddie, help me out.
Yeah, so that's a really, really interesting question. When we certify businesses, we certify by what are called NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System. And because cannabis is not legal on the federal level, there isn't a NAICS code for cannabis. So that's one of the things that we're looking at, trying to build that out, because obviously social equity on the cannabis side of things has been a very hot topic and a very, very important piece for us to look at. And so certification, I think, is going to be critical in that area. And so that's a piece that we're going to be building out over the coming weeks and months. But definitely stay tuned on that as well, because we want robust minority and women participation in cannabis, particularly as that is a nascent industry. We want to make sure that minorities and women are in there on the ground floor and not just waiting later on, where it will become much more difficult to get that participation.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great opportunity where we as a third-party certifying organization can partner to be able to handle those types of certifications once that is approved, because then it's set up, and then that reciprocity will be with the city and the county, and we can take it from there.
So I want to direct our questions back to the business owners. I know Zali already said he's been in business for 30 years and it's hard to remember, but I would love to hear you tell us a little bit about your journey certifying. And I know, Rachel, both of you have said that, you've been around long enough that you're primes, right? I was only in business 11 years in my two businesses and never made it to a prime on any contracts with a state or local government. And so that's the prime is the mecca, right? Because, when you first start, the best that you can hope for is that you're going to get looked at as a subcontractor. So would either of you talk about your experiences, maybe starting out as subcontractors and how you've grown to being prime contractors?
Well, I'll start. Since I'm the veteran here, I guess I've been in business for 35 years. Well, starting out in this business here, well, first of all, I started this business. I was looking for a part-time job when I was in college, and I decided to start working for another construction company. Never thought I would be in this business for 35 years. After leaving university and working for the other company for 4 or 5 years, I decided to open my own business. Don't know why I did that, but here I am 35 years later, and it has been pretty good. I would have to say we have had our challenges when it has come to trying to fit into the mainstream without certification. And I knew early on that certification was going to be the key. In order to get the same, I will call it fairness, or the same opportunities to work on some of the larger projects, you would need to be involved with the MBE program. And I found it to be a very easy process dealing with the county and becoming certified. The key to any certification is making sure documentation is in place. One piece of paper can delay your certification from being 60 days to 90 days, 90 to 120. So I think it is important to work with probably someone who has been in this business, like Rachel, myself, which I've helped many companies in the past, to work with someone who has gone through the process and who is willing to give the help that is required to further you along. We can't just rest upon the county or Eddie's office to do this. You know, we need to reach out and help each other to get certified and figure out what the downfalls are and what we can do to uplift other companies. And I've done that on many occasions. I'm always available for that.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Rachel?
Sorry, I had to hit the unmute thing. Yeah, I think that it's crazy because everybody has a story. Oh, I think I put there. Everyone has a story. And Denise, I love your story because I did my homework prior to us doing this. You talking about your journey on your TED Talk, which I really called to me, you know, a little bit about your background and how you evolved to become, you know, the person that you are today. So my previous life, I had the opportunity of working for entrepreneurs. I used to sell janitorial contract services, and the owner of the organization was a woman-owned business. And as my career evolved, and then I went on to joining an IT consulting company back in '98, I was with them for a couple of years, and I remembered being certified with the previous company that I'd worked with. They had their certification and the advantages that they had in getting doors opened up for them. So when we incorporated in 2000, our L is actually myself, Rachel LeBron. LeBron is my maiden name, and my business partner is Greg Canning. We decided to get ourselves incorporated with the city of Chicago, as well as Cook County, and as well as the state of Illinois. And what's so interesting is that I used to walk the hallways of CPS when they were on Pershing. I walked the hallways when they were there on LaSalle. Was that Clark and LaSalle? I mean, they have seen me, it's interesting, get married, have children, and I had all these strategic partnerships with the likes of a number of different big organizations, and I was just scrappy. What I would always tell everybody is that you just got to be scrappy as you're building these relationships with strategic partners, and respecting those relationships and understanding that they don't have, well, I suppose they do, they're required to do this, but you have to have acumen when you're working with some of these prime contractors and be appreciative of the opportunity that they're giving you. And because of those relationships and how I was able to build a rapport with them, it really facilitated in me building relationships with key leaders back when Runcie was the CIO and some of the key executives at CPS. And that led to over the course, and it takes time. This is not something that happens overnight. And, you know, you got to be very cautious with that. And that's what I always tell my diverse colleagues is you got to be patient. You know, things that success takes time, and it takes time to continue to invest in your relationships. And eventually, if you work those relationships, doors will open. And so when we had first started, again, it was just, strategic partnership through CPS. And then back in 2016, an RFP came out. And I think that's awesome. And I would encourage the county and the city, when they have these target programs for prime contractors, that was the opportunity for us to be able to submit a response as a target program to earn the opportunity to work with CPS directly. And it really was an emotional experience for me because it was so much investment in building relationships with so many key leaders and conversations that took years and that didn't necessarily progress into a revenue generating stream, but I had to earn their trust. And through doing that, really led to the opportunity of them knowing me as a person, knowing my integrity, the values that we have as an organization, and then saying, you know what, Rachel, all right, let's go. We're going to give you an opportunity. And when it's showtime, I think that I would encourage all MBE, WBEs, make sure you have your ducks in a row. No company is perfect. And at any time I'm talking to anybody, whether it's in the private sector, state or local government, I'm so proud that, and it is not about me, it's about my ability to attract incredible talent and my service delivery organization and the people that are part of my company. I know that Jamar Williams is a gentleman that manages my state and local government. I know, Eddie, you are familiar with who Jamar is. I call him my brother from another mother. He's amazing. I mean, and we attract talent to be part of our organization that treat our organization as if they own it. We empower our people to make these decisions. We are not perfect. But you know what? Everyone knows that they can pick up the phone and call myself as well as my business partner, and we're going to address any matters that we need to address. And I would say that is, and it's hard. This is not easy. It is not, but I don't regret it for a single moment. And I am incredibly appreciative of people opening up doors for myself. With that being said, I know I'm being long-winded here. Because of my passion, because I was raised by a single woman, I am so passionate about paying it forward. I think at the end of the day, from a supplier diversity perspective in the private sector, there's so many women that are women of color that are in key CIO executive level positions that are sitting at the table. And the state and local government does an outstanding job in supporting us, but even in the private sector, I think we have to pay it forward. We have to go into the school systems, and my organization has done countless of events for kids of color that I love, that I brought these kids into communities to show them things because they don't know what they don't see. And I could go on and on about that because I love what we've done with CPS and just showing kids that, guess what? I mean, in my community, I live in the northern suburbs. I have personal friendships with people of color that are so successful. And I always want to tell people that if that person of color is successful, has a beautiful home, is raising a beautiful family, it's been done. And success leaves clues. So affiliate and learn about people like that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and that's why I go into schools and I talk to young girls, and I'm all about advocacy for women of color, women specifically. And just to show them that, you know what? You can do this. It's been done, and you could even do it better, So that's what this is. I could go on, Denise, All
right, I'm cutting you off then. All right.
Well, Denise, I just want to add one more thing,
Yes,
Denise.
please, Valley.
I want everyone to understand that this does not happen overnight, as Rachel said. It takes time. Don't be afraid to reach out for mentorship, to link with a company such as Rachel or mine, and even larger, and speak to someone about maybe shadowing and speaking with someone. I wish probably 30, 35 years ago, I had someone to reach out to, but the journey is long. It's a 35-year journey, and we go from 1 employee to 50 employees. Sometimes you go from 1 employee to 100 employees, and we've been fortunate to do such. And that is because we were able to link up and reach out to other companies who did lend a hand, but it does not happen overnight.
Definitely. And I think people have to think about these opportunities that you have with both CMSDC or Cook County, and there's always opportunities for networking, but think about it as a long-term marathon and relationships, not as transactional. I know Vince talked about matchmaking and things like that, and I think sometimes people get it in their minds, I'm going to this matchmaking event, boom, that means something's about to happen, and that is not the way it goes down. There's a couple, first of all, thank you all who are watching. We have a bunch of questions to get to, but I do want to acknowledge one. Chuck said, if a business has been certified as an MBE at the state level by CMS, does that certification get recognized by Cook County? I think Eddie already addressed this quickly, but we're working on that, right?
So the short answer is no. And the reason why is because the requirements of the state, because the state is so much larger than us, are different. And so we have an agreement, but it only goes in one direction. So if you're certified with the county, then you can fast track into the state, but it doesn't work the other way because their requirements are so different.
Cool, thank you. I knew that was a quick one. George, and I think we touched on it a little bit, and I love that both Dolly and Rachel offered themselves up, because it's true. You have to be the folks that you didn't have, right? Regardless of right. that. But George asks, where can I find prime contractors that are looking to subcontract or working with a mentor protege program? So I know at least two of you can answer that.
Well, there's no one area that you're going to find these prime contractors, but you have to get out, you have to network, you got to find out, you go golfing, you go to these events, that people are at. It's just, they're different places. It's no one set place.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, that, depending on, George, what industry you're in many instances, when you take a look at the plan, Cook County, the city of Chicago, they typically have a budget, a plan. I'm missing the basic term. It's the buyer's plan.
Oh yeah, that's right. No, you got it. So I would say you look in there, and you a lot of times become familiarized with people from a prime perspective of people that are in your industry. So if they're in your industry or a larger organization, then I would leverage and build relationships with them, either through LinkedIn, calling the company directly, figure out who the key leaders and executives are within that organization, and try to get an introductory meeting with them. That's what I used to do back in the day.
Yeah, those are great comments. And if I can add into that, I think it's critical to learn or to know that as a certified MBE, WBE, just because you're certified doesn't mean that you're going to get contracts. Yeah. You still have to market yourself.
Right.
You still have to showcase your capacity and what it is that you can do. But also, when you're not in the room through some of these mentor protege programs, people are able to vouch for you. Yes, the company's going to show up on time. Yes, they're going to do incredible service, business, customer service. They're going to show up professionally. They're going to do all the things that you are looking for in a vendor, in a supplier. And so really what we hope to strive, and what we strive to do, is as we develop more businesses and create these networks, we want organizations like Rachel's and Zolly's to share, these are what I did to make sure that I was successful. And then as we pay it forward, then you can do that with others that are going forward. So it is still going to take some marketing on your side, having these one-on-one connections, if you will, but then really having each of these organizations, each of these colleagues, each of these collaborative opportunities speak to how well you're doing business still, because that's what's going to get continued contracts and get you more where you want to go.
Yeah. You have to start at the bottom. You can't look for the $10 million contract. You have to look for the $10,000 contract, because there's plenty enough time to go from 10,000 to 10 million.
And I would add one piece on and so this relates to what I said earlier about transparency. So on the Cook County website, if you look in the procurement department's website, you'll be able to see what other contracts have been let and who submitted bids, who submitted proposals. It's a great way to do some research to get a sense of what are the companies that are looking at the county in an event. Who's looking at the county to do work there? And then you can go from there, and you can see if those are businesses that you are interested in and building relationships with. The other thing is call me. I always tell people, call me up, because I would love to help introduce you to some folks. Zolly, I'm going to throw it out there since you already did, right? But Zolly's gotten some calls from me about helping out some newer firms. And my experience has been that our M&Ws have been tremendously receptive about providing support to newer firms. And I'll tell you, myself and in my office, my team, I have a fantastic team, and we do great work in connecting people and helping to build that networking, which is such an important piece of business development, writ large.
I'd like to also add too that it's years ago in my early days, a gentleman used this line and I love it. The worst time to make a friend is when you need one. So at the end of the day, it is so important to build relationships, sometimes about nothing, because you're building a relationship and rapport. It's kind of like if you have to do some renovation at your house. Are you going to go with the first person that's going to put the roof on your house? No, you're going to try to meet a number of different individuals, right? Yeah. And you're going to try to build a relationship and gain an understanding and do your background and your background check on that particular company. So I think I think it's so important is you can't call somebody like, I want to bid and I deserve this, or I want to give me business. You have to build that relationship.
And the only thing I would add, I'm taking my hat off as a moderator, is hone your story. Because as Vincent said, if you have a great story, when you're not in the room, people will tell that story for you.
Yes.
To this day, I get calls still because someone is like sitting in a room and they're in a meeting and somebody will say some keywords and they're like, oh my God, Denise is the person who can do that. And then they are sending me a note. So if you have a solid story and you are solid in what your talents are and you can articulate that well and train all the people in your life and everybody you meet to do it, that's going to also bring you business. All right, back as the moderator. We have a couple more questions from the audience. Well, Elvina, it's not necessarily a question because we have covered it, but I do. Elvina is a certified Cook County minority vendor. Yay, Elvina. And she basically asked if we're able to speak after the presentation about varying opportunities to do business with the county and sister agencies. I know that we put the link up about Cook County, and the sister agencies will make sure that those links are up there too. All right. Does the county have an incentive program for people with disabilities like the city has, or are you planning on implementing one?
Yes, we do. So just last year, we created a new certification, the PDBE, Persons with Disabilities Business Enterprise. And we have the incentive is a 5% bid incentive for those who have the PDBE certification, very similar to our veteran program as well. And so we only have one PDBE right now, so we're looking for more always. So if you have an interest, by all means, come and certify with us.
Excellent. All right, let me see if there's any. Oh, Suzanne says she tried to call you, Eddie, so you're gonna have to get that voicemail on full. All right.
Put my email in the box. The voicemail's good, but take the email. It's always faster.
All right, so I actually do want to get back to one of the questions I wrote related to the private sector. We've been talking a lot about the government, and President Preckwinkle, if you wouldn't mind starting us, what would you like to see? Because you were interviewed by Cranes, I think my first month here, because Cranes was like, what can the government do to help the private sector? Because y'all seem to get it right more than they do. So I want to talk about this, the public sector part of this, the private sector part of this.
Constituencies that you have to answer to. And you're under a microscope in the way that the private sector isn't. So first you have folks who are advocating for participation, for inclusion. And secondly, you have public, you're in public view, okay? But what you do is is more transparent than what private sector companies do. And partly that's government has an obligation to be more transparent. And partly it is the media pays more attention to what government does than what private sector companies do. My view is it's all about leadership. The leadership of the organizations have to decide that this is something they want to do and get the organization on board to do it. And unfortunately, in this country, there's always been more opportunities for women and minority-owned businesses in government contracting than there has been in the private sector. And in a way, we're validators. We're third-party affirmers, so that people who have county business can take their resume into the private sector and hopefully get business there as well. But the government has always been in the position of providing opportunity to women-owned businesses and businesses of color to an extent that the private sector hasn't. And as I said, I think one of the great things about government is that we can build resumes for people so that they can then go in the private sector and hopefully get a business as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was great, President Preckwinkle. And I think from a private sector perspective, really what we're looking to do is ensure that when we make those connections, right, that these businesses are able to work in the capacity, and that the private businesses can mold them to work, to be nimble, if you will, and to work with them in a manner that they need. And that's pretty critical. I think that's why you find a lot of times in the private sectors that sometimes they stick with who they know that can handle what they're doing. And but now that because of what the disruption the pandemic has caused, corporate members and CEOs have this opportunity to make that change and to say that we are strategically and intentionally going to go after working with minority businesses, or just those that are able to do the work the way that we want it done.
Anybody else want to chime in on the private sector, what we'd like to see from them? No? All right. So we have, let's see, I think we've gotten through all the questions in the box. Actually, one final question that I have for you all, and it's related to, this conversation has mostly been about established businesses. We touched a little bit on startups, but and it's also related, if I could get this comment pulled in. We had Kim from the Chicago Defender, who's also the owner of Divine Dine Food Tours. And Kim says that in this time where it's so easy to just put up the gone fishing sign, as Vincent said, you all have put me in another space mentally with regards to pivoting my own business. And so she thanks us for this conversation today. And I think that's a great segue into this last question. I said, most of these conversations, we talk about the longevity and how hard it is, and it's a long road, and it's mostly an established business conversation, but not a lot of conversation is around startups. And I would just love to hear, because like I said, I was in business 6 years before I even thought about certification, because I was just too busy in the hustle. And I remember when it bit me, and then I did it. What would we say to new entrepreneurs who are thinking about this, who might be watching in the wings? What would we say to them about being part of a certification process and program?
Well, I'd like to add that it is a double-edged sword, right? So it is the process to get certified as a startup is going to be a lot easier because you do not have as much information, financial information, if you will, that you have to provide. And all of that is required to become certified. But if you don't have 5 years of tax returns to show, then you don't, of course, need to provide 5 years of tax returns. So that's going to make that process that much easier. But as a startup as well, you have to think, are you able to really do what it is that either this government or county or private contract is seeking? Are you able to host that capacity, if you will? Not saying that that $10 million contract does not sound good, but I think Zali mentioned this earlier. Go after the smaller contracts. Start building a rapport and a reputation with some of these vendors and organizations so that now you have some success stories, and then maybe you even can learn about additional opportunities. I won't call them failures. I'll just say what hurdles that or obstacles that you will encounter that you won't repeat then as other opportunities present themselves. And so that's where it can be, again, double-edged for you. It can be good for you in the case that if you can handle it, but it can be terrible for you if you take on that particular job or contract and come to find out that you really just aren't able to do it from a human resource perspective, from a financial resource perspective, and it really ends up hurting you in the end.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, Vincent, we have to be prepared as entrepreneurs. We have to, from the beginning, on the onset, be prepared, know your market, have your documentation in place, and make sure you know who you kind of sort of want to work for. You can't go all over the place looking to work with someone. Streamline it. Focus on what you want to do, and don't be in a hurry. Take your time. Tomorrow is going to come.
Absolutely. Even today, as I'm continually trying to grow and expand my business, you know, you have to be prepared that there might be 100 no's. We've all heard that, right? It's like, you know, Michael Jordan, I'm showing my age, but, you know, that he was practicing and playing ball. And, you know, did you guys see that documentary? It's amazing. All the work that these people put into, the time that they put into to be the best. And at the end of the day, everyone is talking about the customer experience, whether it's the customer that's internally or it's the customer that you're serving. Provide an experience. Be memorable. You know, always be proactive in trying to solution. Be pleasurable to work with. You know, don't think that you know everything, because you're not, and don't act like you know everything, because then you're just lying. And you know that they're saying in their head, they're like, oh, they're just totally lying. You know, be memorable, know what you're delivering, and try to be the absolute best in that area, in that space, and be authentic. You know, it really is all about that. And, you know, I want to encourage all of you entrepreneurs, business owners, and even if you're part of an organization and you're not the owner of an organization, always show up being your best. You know, you have a choice. You have a choice to be great or to be average or just not show up at all. So, you know, if you want to excel and succeed, the bottom line is anyone that is affluent and incredibly successful has put in a lot of sweat equity and has surrounded themselves with really great people. And no one should ever be successful. No one should ever be judgmental of those that are successful, because success leaves clues. And I want to wish everybody so much, you know, luck moving forward in their businesses.
The only piece that I have to add to that is rely on the resources that are available. Do your research. The CMSDC is there to help. WBDC, ASEA, there's lots and lots of organization. There are procurement technical assistance centers. Call us. We're here rooting for you. We want you to be successful. We want you to grow, because you're going to invest in your employees, and those employees are going to invest in this county. And that's how we build a sustainable and robust and wonderful place to live, work, play, and learn. And so rely on us. Call. Don't hesitate. And we're rooting for you.
Awesome. Well, I want to just highlight one last comment, and then I'm going to let the president tell us our last words. And it comes from Jaime Agnello. It says, all the speakers were very inspiring. Jaime said that he was questioning if this event would be beneficial to his business, and it's been well worth his time. So I just want to thank every person that took time out of your very busy day to join us. You often wonder, if we get together in the middle of the day and you talk and you throw it up on Facebook, if people are going to show up. Not only did we have a very engaged group, we had a very lively, informative, knowledgeable, and fun panel. President Preckwinkle, do you want to close us out with just some encouraging words to end our town hall?
Sure. Thank you. The mute button. All right. I am very grateful to all of you for participating in our town hall, to Denise as our moderator, to Dolly, Rachel, Vincent for joining us. We appreciate it. You know, the county has to be focused on equity and inclusion. And one of the ways in which we can meet that focus, that we can show ourselves true to our values, is the opportunities that we provide for people in the business community, particularly women-owned and minority-owned businesses. So I'm grateful to all of the folks who are with us today for the information they shared, and I hope that it's helpful to our viewers. I would particularly encourage you to be in contact with my staff, with Eddie, who I think left his website in the chat section, so people can be in touch with him. We're always willing to try to be helpful and supportive. And if we can't assist you ourselves, we'll try to direct you to folks who can. But thank you all.
Thank you all. And this is recorded and you can watch it back, and we can send people to our to President Preckwinkle's Facebook page to see the replay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.